Hello everybody, I am Conquering History Games and welcome to a new campaign on the channel. Today we're going to be playing some Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order, and we're going to be reunifying Russia under the Siberian Black Army, aka the Serbian Black Army, aka the Siberian Black Hand. So this is going to be my last Hearts of Iron 4 campaign that I'm going to work on for a while. I'm pre-recording this, of course, so by the time you're watching this, I think I'm already taking a little break from doing some live streams. But even when we come back to doing some live streaming, certainly by May, I'm not going to be doing any Hearts of Iron 4 for, maybe a month, so like until the May 20s or something, maybe until June. Just wanted to take a break, but I had promised you all that I was going to do a either Central or Western Siberian nation before I called it quits, so I'm going to record that, so you guys will have this to watch while I'm on my little break, so you still get your Hearts of Iron 4 fix. And so I put it up on the community tab for you to vote between West and Central Siberia, and you guys voted on Central, and I really thought long and hard about who I wanted to play in Central Siberia. I was thinking about doing Tomsk, but Tomsk has lots and lots of really interesting leaders that I wanted to be able to talk more about at length. And I want, like, to the point where I wanted to have some notes ready to go going into that instead of speaking mostly off the cuff. And I've been juggling so many other things lately that I thought, you know what, I'll just come back to that. So look forward to a Tomsk campaign in the future. And so I then decided, well, April has, I didn't even plan for it to really be that way, but April has kind of become communism month on the channel. So I thought, well, let's do something else. Let's do this, the Siberian Black Army, which begins as libertarian socialists, although it can go despotic. That's my understanding, that everybody always wants everyone to go anarchy. I'm going to talk about what path I'm going to do and why in a minute. Let's first do the intro stuff, because I'm going into this blind. I haven't played this nation before. I've heard that under certain circumstances it could be incredibly broken, like just unbelievably powerful, especially in regards to recruitable population. We'll see. I don't know for sure. Anyway, let's just jump into it, shall we? Let's see if we can avoid the Conquering History Game special and actually unpause in the first episode. I think we will. We might be able to pull it off. Here we go. And I think this is my first regular The New Order campaign since, I think when I did Werbel under Magadan. Might be. Alright, I'm getting a little worried now. It shouldn't take this long to load up. I checked that it was working. This might be because I'm just coming off of the After Midnight stuff, and that's like technically a different patch of the game within the same mod, and it's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. That shouldn't happen again. Okay, so let's introduce ourselves. I'm sure you all know the backstory of the New Order by now. Germany won World War II. Russia's a mess. We're going to reunite it. Boom. Now, here we are. And also, one of the reasons I decided not to do the Moe order for here is because, yes, there is technically anime portraits on here, but it's a little bit different. It's not a typical portrait, so I thought, let's do the New Order. Plus, people have been having such a fit about the Moe stuff. Anyway, the Siberian Black Army. To most, anarchy is a derogatory term, one that means the total collapse of society and best suits war-torn nations, bursting at the seams with misery and suffering. To the Black Army of Central Siberia, anarchy is not a term to be spat out at a political opponent. Anarchy is something to be cherished, to be embraced as the end state of the natural progression of humanity. While contrarians shout from the rafters of the failures of anarchism, the people residing within the communes care little for their opinion. The deep sense of camaraderie and fellowship that has been fostered in the free territory over the last years can show that anarchism is the underdog ideology, seemingly impossible, yet in practice bringing prosperity to the people. Anarchy, of course, can be something much, much darker. If one were to ask General Ivan Stepanov if he was an anarchist as he led his division into Yagoda's eastern rump state, the officer in Central Siberian Republic would most certainly turn you away. Not out of his commitment to Russian democracy, or out of disdain for the tyranny of the Yagoda regime. So yeah, to review, Yagoda, that's Irkutsk, and then these are the Tomsk is the Central Siberian Republic. Nor for out of disdain for the tyranny of the Yagoda regime, but out of opportunism. It was opportunity that got him transferred out of the Western Front. It was opportunism that got him within the highest echelons of the Central Siberian Republic. When Stepanov looked out to his weary troops on the day of the final assault towards Irkutsk, he saw a decade of war and people yearning for peace. But more so, he saw an opportunity. Yuri Galenskov was nothing more than a student when his life was ripped away from him. Growing up in Bukharin's Russia, Yuri saw the failure of the state on a daily basis. But it was his father who had instilled in him the disdain for not just the Tsar or the fascists, but for the oppressive state in any form, in any clothes it may try to disguise itself in. Even as the CSR claimed to be the torchbearer of the people's struggle for peace, it marched its war-torn men into war daily. Galenskov made impassioned speeches before his countrymen, calling for freedom from war and those who send men off to die in it. Fate works in strange ways. In another life, General Stepanov would most likely only seen Yuri from the end of a long rifle, and yet, by pure chance, the two were able to strike a deal. Stepanov would provide the military power, and Galenskov would bring his popular support to the table. The pieces were set and placed, and with a final act of rebellion, the Free Territory established itself as an independent land far from the grip of the state. While the Free Territory may be equipped to deal with the external threats, Galenskov will soon find that the greatest threats are the ones that come from within. Features: decide the very fate of anarchism. Muster a strong defense force to protect the people from the state. Make Mother Anarchy proud. Fun stuff. Okay. Region info. What are we dealing with here? I like these welcome screens, and I am very thankful to Equestrian War for inspiring people to do them. So Central Siberia once stood defiantly as the Central Siberian Republic. The Russians couldn't work together, so they brought down the nation, southwest, east of Kemerov, etc., etc. Okay, here we go. East of Karen-Siroryak lies an expanse of villages and free cities. Imagining the state area undefended would, however, be a dangerous mistake. For the Siberian Black Army zealously defends the region, adherents of a particularly militarized variant of anarchism. The leadership of the Black Army plots its next move. All of Russia must be free from status oppression, beginning with Central Siberia. Exhausted by war with the Russian Far East and civil conflicts for years, the rivalries of Central Siberia have begun to rouse the various warlords from their fragile peace. There's only enough room in Central Siberia for one nation, one heir to Bukharin's industrial cornucopia. The Soviet-era's foundries and factories will cause yet more bloodshed as the unification wars begin. Alright, mod features. Yeah, we know this stuff. Okay. And, of course, thank you very much to the team. Dedicated to soft boy anarchists. Has that always been there? Well, it's very fitting. At least this for this. Okay. So let's take a look at who we are. Instead of a typical leader, we have the Serbian Soviet. In the wake of the Union's collapse, the people of the Angara's basin found themselves free from the authority of Moscow. The first thing they did, in a true socialist fashion, was to assemble a committee! Many of the regional institutions were functioning without Moscow's oversight, and with some rationing and belt-tightening, many of the goods that it imported from elsewhere in the Union could be foregone or replaced with local substitutes. Contact with the remnants of the Soviet government in Western Russia had been lost, and they were hesitant to acknowledge the democratic provisional government of the Central Siberian Republic and the tyrannical regime of Genrik Yagoda alike, forming self-defense militia squads fighting for their freedoms with blood. And thus, influenced by the influx of once ostracized anarchist thinkers from the farthest parts of the Soviet Union, they proclaimed their independence as the Serbian Anarchist Soviet, a self-governing ruling body with equal representation for all major towns and industrial unions. As their position became secure from the foreign threats, the Siberian Black Army, the military force of the free communes of the shores of Ilya, became one of the leading voices in the Soviet and declared the militarized anarchism as its main platform. The militia service became an essential part of every man and woman of the free territory, and the armed formation of free communes are assembled not merely as a means of self-defense for the free communities, but also as a means of spreading the liberating ideology abroad. The spreading militarization of the anarchist society, seemingly contradictory to anarchist ideals, caused surprisingly little tensions between the army and the Soviet. But many of the commoners fear that the ambitions of the Black Army, the protector of the independence of Siberian communes, will eventually become the undoing of their own freedoms. Okay. So, yeah, we just have like a Soviet that's in charge. It's not really a single person, right? Okay, fair enough. Now, let's talk about the inspirations for the Black Army. Now, the original Black Army was... now we're going to be talking about our own timeline, although it was in this timeline too, because the point of divergence doesn't happen until later. But during the Russian Civil War, Ukraine was a contended spot because the Russian Revolution begins while World War I is still ongoing, and then there was kind of two revolutions in 1917, and eventually everything fragments into the Russian Civil War, one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. And, it's devastating to the land of Russia. All these parties fighting each other, internal threats, external threats, external, or maybe, depending on who you ask, the Allies were not threatening, maybe they were trying to get some stability in the country or whatever. But also a famine was going on, and just everything was a mess. Germany had, with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, claimed a lot of Western Russia, including the Ukraine. The Austrians were in there too. And then Germany loses the war, and things are getting really confusing. And the Black Army of the Ukraine ends up getting formed by Nestor Makhno, who I'm going to talk about in detail in a moment. But they were basically anarchists and communists who formed a militia group whose main duty, the main thing they worked toward, was protecting the people of Ukraine and trying to attempt to keep it as an independent, free territory. And they've got the famous flag, which with the skull and crossbones, and it has a sentence written on it, so it's not like a typical flag, and it says, "Death to those that stand in the way of freedom for the working people," or something like that. I don't speak Ukrainian, but it's my understanding that's what it translates to. Now, the Black Army had been organized by Nestor Makhno, which I actually just the other day read what I thought was a wonderful comparison. Nestor Makhno was basically the Pancho Villa of the Russian Revolution. So Pancho Villa was probably the most famous figure of the Mexican Revolution, which is like a whole other thing. Man, we got to get a game that takes place during the Mexican Revolution so I could talk about that, because I always call the Mexican Revolution the Finnegan's Wake of revolutions. It is just so crazy and absurd and difficult to understand at times. You had Vatican troops and KKK troops shooting at one another at some points. It's just totally insane. But we're here to talk about Russia. So, Nestor Makhno, he's kind of, I would imagine, in the Black Army, he's probably seen as a revered figure. But he was a Ukrainian peasant who became an anarchist, spent some time in jail. Kind of all the major figures in the Russian Revolution had spent some time in jail or in Siberia or whatever. It was almost like a rite of passage, right? But anyway, he ends up spending some time in prison, where he ended up sharing a prison cell with other anarchists who kind of refined his views. He gets out of prison in 1917 when the first Russian Revolution of 1917, that being the February one, grants amnesty to political prisoners. So he goes back home, he forms a trade union, and he gets elected the chairman of the local carpenters union. Actually, I think he was elected the head of two unions because he had like two jobs or whatever. It was something like that. Anyway, but then things in Russia are getting more chaotic. He ends up recruiting other peasants, and they formed a militia. And then they start simultaneously protecting the land of the peasants, but also, what would be the word? Expropriating some of the land of the richer people in the Ukraine and then redistributing that land. So he becomes this hero in Ukraine. He fights against the Austrians and the Germans who are in the area. And he just basically takes part in a lot of different raids. Is fighting so many other factions in the Russian Civil War, international brigades, but also the Whites, of course, nationalists, the Reds, although he sometimes would work with the Reds, and whatnot. So there was a lot of tension with the Bolsheviks in particular because they sometimes were working together. For example, when General Denikin was pushing toward Moscow, the Black Army was really key in creating problems in Denikin's rear to kind of slow the advance toward Moscow. And then what ends up breaking the alliance is the Bolsheviks end up launching an offensive into Poland, and then Machnow gets ordered to move his troops to support that offensive, and he figures, you're doing that so that my army will leave the Ukraine, and then you could take the Ukraine. And anyway, that's when they turn they turn on one another. Anyway, he ends up in a fight with Trotsky. Trotsky defeats him, takes his headquarters. Machnow himself is hurt. He ends up kind of wandering around the countryside until he manages to make his way into Romania. And then from Romania, he goes to Poland. And then to Poland, he actually faces a trial. And then he goes to Danzig. And then he goes west. And then he eventually ends up in Paris, where he just lived out the rest of his days, which wasn't very long. He was a very young man when he died. And of course, there's a whole lot more to his life. Like I said, he's the Pancho Villa of the Russian Revolution. A lot of wild things that he got into. And he died. Did he die in his 50s? Yeah, he was a pretty young guy, I think. I think by the time the Russian Revolution started, he was only like 27 or something. But he was under 30. I'm sure of that. Anyway, so I'm sure that we'll probably learn a little bit more about him as we go here. I just wanted to kind of give you guys the broad strokes of who that was and like the original inspiration for the Black Army. So essentially, anarchistic communists who don't want the state interfering with them. But yeah, like that intro said, a little bit contradictory because we're going to be expanding outwards, so we're going to see how that goes. You probably also have noticed I still haven't said what path that I'm going to go down. We're going to get to it, don't worry. All right, what have we got here? Legacy of the Siberian Plan. Our statelet lies in a unique region of Russia, the former area that Bukharin's and the Central Siberian Republic's Grand Industrial Project was sited. Securing machinery and infrastructure and rebuilding sections of the Siberian Plan will provide great boons to our statelet. So we get nothing right now, but I guess it could go up, increasing... consumer goods, will that go up or down? Hopefully it goes down. But looks like we're probably going to be able to get bonuses to construction speed, production efficiency cap, factory output, resource gain efficiency, production efficiency growth. I'm already kind of seeing here how this could be something that's a little bit OP. I'm also noticing, by the way, that we've only got 45 manpower. We are admittedly mobilizing, but we're also only on just volunteer-only conscription, whereas most of the warlords, I think, are at 4-year draft, so that could be a problem later. We are the Serbian Free Territory. Our little patch of land is one of the few places on this... God, I hope I'm upsetting some people. Our little patch of land is one of the few places on the downtrodden earth where the ideals of anarchism can thrive without the threat of revisionists or counter-revolutionaries. However, our little communist spirit as it is needs more than just revolutionary spirit. It needs a purpose and unity of direction. Without these, our experiment will collapse. So... our stability is higher right now, but our organization and political power gain is down. We have a militarized society. We are not the weak and defenseless communes spread throughout Russia, secure in our ideals and confident that the forces of reaction and the tyrannical outside world shall not conspire to destroy us. No, we are far more enlightened than that. The revolution shall always have enemies, and so our guns shall not rest until every corner of our land has been touched by the benevolent hand of Mother Anarchy. Black Army administration right now is moderate. In order to bring the revolution to all of Serbia and ensure our freedom is protected from those who would destroy us, we must ensure that we are well practiced in self-defense. The Black Army thus ensures that there is truly a rifle behind every blade of grass, and the natural administrative shortcomings of anarchism are compensated for by giving militia commanders and the overall leaders of the Black Army a form of overall control. This increases daily despotic support and also increases our division attack and recovery rate. Okay, so the despotic ideology is going to grow steadily, but presumably if we modify the Black Army administration, that can change. Okay. 2 research slots, isn't that wonderful? How's the industry? Oh, not good. Not good, not good. God, it's terrible. Alright. I guess until I think of something else, let's just increase some infrastructure here. Free military factories, we have 4. Okay, so we want rifles, anti-tank equipment, support equipment, and artillery. Let's just at least get those started. 7 divisions are available to us. Let's just put them on the border here until I think of... Whoop, no. Hold on. Put these on the border till I think of something else to do with them. Of course, we need to change this color very quickly. There we go. That's what I like to see. Okay. Oh yeah, and for the music, by the way, guys, I am using the Last Waltz of Europe music sub-mod. Okay. So we've got that done. Insufficient resources. We are short on aluminum. That's going to be for the support equipment. We can't do much about that now, so we're going to wait. Decision tab. You know what? Before we look at the decision tab, let's look at our national focus here. So pretty obvious first one. The Serbian Black Army, formed in the fallout of the collapse of Yugoslavia's empire a few years ago, has become the torchbearer of anarchistic ideology. The free territory we created was formed on the foundations of militarized anarchism. Just to spread the message, there's a long road ahead. Our communes must be improved without stripping them of their rights in the stateless society. The Black Army, the core unit responsible for the defense, must also be improved, lest we be defenseless when the free territory is in danger. If everything goes as planned, then we will soon be ready to face the future. Okay. So again, I still haven't said what path I'm going. I'm going to wait until we get a decision that influences that, and then we'll talk about it. There's Stefan Valentev here. Does everybody have goggles? Okay, so this guy, he's a war hero, organizer, offensive doctrine, and fast planner. I've definitely seen worse. Okay, Ivan Stepanov is our infantry guy here. So I guess we should use him. Okay. Great. Logistics, everything's fine for right now anyway. Okay, 12 wits, artillery and engineers are in there. Again, I've definitely seen worse. We can work with this, for sure. Okay, well, let's start heading forward. Okay. So, anarchism or despotism? I bet everybody's eagerly waiting to know. It's gonna be fun. Alright. Alright, we're waiting for an event or something to show up. Okay, I guess it's not happening. Let's go ahead and create an agency. Not that the agencies are that good here. Oh yeah, we're going to look at the decisions here. So, the communes of the Free Territory form the General Assembly, a de facto legislative body for our glorious society. Here, the grievances and ideas of the communes can be heard in collective decisions made for the benefit of all free peoples of the world. Naturally, we are free of the corrupt dealings and tit-for-tat of the bourgeois democracies. And any appearance of such is a simple misinterpretation of anarchist methods. So we could do things here like expanding civilian infrastructure for prerequisites. A debate has to not be ongoing and a motion cannot be being implemented. Alright, so we can only do one of these things at once, so I can't just save up 500 political power or whatever and then do a bunch of these at once. Active for 60 days, effect when moved. Has a positive effect for successfully passing a motion and a negative effect for failure. The changes in libertarian socialism goes up 3%. Industrial equipment, societal development will begin to slowly improve. And that will give me 1 infrastructure. Okay, and then, but then other ones do different things. So, like right here, this helps division speed, but also increases despotism. Alright. Is this the only way we can kind of choose what happens to what? Is there any stuff that does the same thing twice? So, for example, if I develop civilian industry, that helps poverty rate. Does anything else help poverty rate but also do despotism? Oh, see, like, this is an interesting one. Empowering the Black Army increases despotism by 10%, and also war support goes up and you get 75. So you pay 25 to get 75. If you're going despotism, that's pretty strong. But if you're not going despotism, it's a problem. Okay. Huh. So it looks like stuff that helps our societal development generally is despotic. In fact, or is it always despotic? No, that's not true. This is research facilities, but helps with libertarians. So it's a balance between the military and civilian. Military being despotic, civilian being anarchy. Okay. Okay, anything else here? Reunification of Russia, that's always there. Preparing raids, we gotta still wait a little bit. Alright, the legacy of the Siberian Plan. Though much of Russia is shattered and bombed out by the ravages of war, our realm hosts the remnants of an extraordinary project. Started by Bukharin and escalated in the Central Siberian Republic at the peak of its power, the Siberian Plan was a comprehensive initiative to lay infrastructure for the transformation of Siberia into the largest and most well-orchestrated industrial area on the area on the planet. Is probably what I was supposed to say. While the plan wasn't able to reach its full potential, much of the structure remains and can be put to use to better our own industry. However, due to the unique nature of our region and the heavy industrialization of our territory, we must watch our industrial workers closely to ensure that discontent does not build within the population. Our current worker discontent is non-existent. So I'm guessing if there's discontent, it might hurt something with the legacy of the Siberian Plan, where like factory output goes down, or they go on strike or whatever. I don't know. So we could do things here like improve resource extraction, increases resource extraction, decreases construction speed, and increases consumer factories. Okay, so it goes back and forth. And some of this stuff will decrease worker content. So like right here, worker concessions will increase our consumer good factories, which is bad, but it decreases worker discontent. Okay, this also doesn't seem to have anything to do with libertarian socialism versus despotism, so I can kind of do this willy-nilly, and I imagine neither of them wants worker discontent to go up. Then we've got warlord development, which is pretty standard. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Well, we don't have any political power or command power right now, so we can't get ready for raids or anything like that, so we might as well just get moving forward. We're getting a little bit under half of a political power point a day. That's kind of unfortunate. The Reich's last conquest. They landed on the moon! The Germans are on the moon! Alright, the most grand of experiments. Here we are, Yuri Galanskov brought his vehicle to a halt. His hand hovered slightly over the keys, his body suddenly drained of motivation and energy. From the cracked and snow-covered windshield, Yuri could see people trickle into the General Assembly building. A smile crept across his face. It never ceased to amaze him. People, hundreds of them, men and women alike, had attached themselves to the anarchist movement, the most grand experiment in human history. Yuri sat and watched and watched and watched. It was as if the car turned a 5-mile drive into a journey into an alternate reality. Boo! A hand pressed against the window, stirring Yuri from his motionlessness. Yuri looked to his left, grinning like a child. The woman kept her hand against the window for stability, leaning to get a look inside the vehicle. Are you ready to go? Yuri shrugged. Sure, he was ready to speak before the people. If he had a seed for every speech he gave, he could feed all of Russia with one garden. There was something off about how routine it seemed. You're lost in thought again, the woman said, shifting her weight from one foot to another. If you were anyone else, I'd ask you what's on your mind, but I know. The woman averted her gaze from Yuri. The two sat in silence. The woman took a deep breath. Come on, Yuri, they need you in there. Let's not keep them waiting, Vevginia. Alright. Next up, convene the General Assembly or convene the Security Council. I guess we should convene the General Assembly first so we can get some political power, so I can decide if I want to do any General Assembly stuff up here or, you know, scavenge for loot, etc. Yeah, a lot of stuff here is real good to have. Probably especially the manpower. And yet our manpower is modified quite a bit right now. The modern Bogyatar, everybody gets this. Okay, so we're going to stop it there. So I hope you all are excited for this series. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Looks like we're going to have some juggling to do. And yes, you guys are going Conquering History Games. What path are you taking? Guess you got to wait and see, huh? I'm Conquering History Games. Please be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified whenever new videos like this go up on the channel, including when I'm going to resume my live streaming. And I will see you all in the next episode.